Knobcon coverage brought to you by Signal Sound and Befaco, Future Sound Systems, Low Gain Electronics, Steady State Fate, Funk and Expert Sleepers. So here at Knobcon with Sonocurrent, how's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good to see you. So we've bumped into each other for a few super booths.
Yeah.
Never really had a chance to deep dive the modules, and there's a nice patch going in the background, so let's just jump straight into it. What's going on with the patch? What modules are you using?
Okay, I have something that's not quite a generative patch, but maybe what you might say is sort of self-regulating at the moment.
I like that term, self-regulating.
It's got some FM and phase modulation coming from 4 different VCOs up here, going through one of my crossfade modules, which is 3 stages of crossfading. 4 inputs feed the side crossfades, so 1 pair per side, and then the center crossfader is internally fed by the side crossfades. And so that's basically blending between all 4 of the VCOs, and then the other crossfader is actually handling additional signals from those VCOs, which are going back in to do the frequency modulation and phase modulation.
Okay.
So one of these is sweeping the sounds you're actually hearing, and the other is sweeping the modulators in the patch. All that's being controlled by a pair of function generators, some of which is going through one of my macro controllers, some of which I just have direct for simplicity this morning. The macro controller lets you take up to 4 inputs, send them out to 4 inputs. It keeps them separate, but it gives you a master level control. So in this case, I can adjust individual levels for any single channel and then have a master depth of modulation over the whole works. Also give you inverts and offsets should you need them. Like I said, at this point, this patch has stayed pretty simple so far this morning, so
I love the idea of using a kind of crossfade network to refeed sounds back on themselves. Like such a complex, like cross modulation is potentially the wrong word.
Right.
Crossfading, cross modulation.
Yes. And because I also, on the crossfaders, I give direct outputs for the side crossfades, you can split something off, so you can do it in tiers.
Okay.
So I can have this is actually a modulation signal coming from just 2 different octaves of the Generate 3 over here, going over to the 3 body. But then the main output is the main
main fade is what
frequency
feeds the main
modulation
FM.
there. And there's a little bit of internal modulation happening through normaling on this too that I haven't put into the crossfaders.
Yeah. So where are you coming from kind of musically or technically as a designer? Like the self-regulating idea, the idea of this tiered modulation and control and macros, like I guess what's led to your designs?
I do some generative, some drone things on my own. I don't sequence much, but I do look for ways to find rhythmic structure outside of sequencing. So another thing I do with the crossfaders is they are CV capable. They're DC coupled.
Okay.
So you can feed LFOs at different rates and different shapes through them and then put that to a comparator.
Okay.
Evolving.
Trying to kind of like phase lock and loop almost.
Yes.
Unsynced sources
And so that's part of what drives what I design is finding ways to make something more tactile, more performative. It's also why my modules tend not to be the smallest.
Well, they shouldn't be when that's the design goal.
I make them the size I think they need to be.
Yeah.
I'm aware that there are other people out there making some very compact things, and that's fine.
It's nice
it
to both exist, you know.
And I like the setup to feel playable by hand.
Yeah.
And something where I can get, some of it is semi-automatic, and then I can dive into it and start working it with my fingers.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the gestalt behind how I lay things out, how I think of what the functions are going to be in the first place.
And is it fair to say that Distortion, sonically, was your kind of way into the format? Was the first module of Distortion?
Probably.
Right?
I'd say it's between Distortion and strange routing schemes.
Okay.
Like
I like that.
Like recursive routing, which the crossfaders can do and the macro controllers can do. Things like, okay, how do I use one LFO in 8 places, but have control over all of that? should I want to reach in there and grab it?
Yeah.
Or how do I use 8 LFOs but make sense of them?
Yeah, to less than 8 destinations.
Right.
Or,
And then the Distortion was the first module I came out with. I do play some other instruments, not spectacularly well perhaps, but
well, speaking as someone that can sort of play some instruments, not as well as others, Distortion helps.
yeah. And
At least for me.
As someone listening to music, I come from listening to a lot of heavier, harder, more aggressive music over the years, so it made sense to make a Distortion because I wanted voltage control over parameters. Obviously, you can always feed your outputs through pedals, all sorts of, that's an endless variety of flavors out there, but it's like, again, coming back to having the control.
Yeah.
So this was the first module because it seemed like a natural jump off point because like you said, that's probably the thing I wanted most for myself at the time.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So these are all out now?
Pardon me?
These modules are all out now?
Yes, everything's out now. I don't have any current issues with supply chain and so forth for the moment.
Well, I'll put links in the description to all of it, and thanks for showing us the module.
But
Thanks for showing us. Great.
yeah.
Cool.